Hari, Denize, Zekuze, Skyze. Thank you for being here today. And I'm truly honored to stand amongst our chiefs. Since I started becoming more active in the fight against industry who are threatening our communities through the Idle No More movement. And before that, it was because of my dad and his having his hereditary name and his work with the Office of Wet'suwet'en. We were always aware of the issues. But it was I became more active because I understood what the Idle No More movement was about. It was about grassroots people. It wasn't about depending on the leadership that we have in place, because that's what our communities have been conditioned to do. In the First Nations community, we vote a chief in, we vote a councillor, and that's who's going to make the decisions. We didn't understand truly that what democracy is, because that's as youth growing up in that system, that's how we understood it. And so we thought, give it to them. They're elected leaders. They're going to be able to make these decisions for us. And so letting that, and throughout my life, I could see that it was a failing system. That's not our true traditional Indigenous system. We have a traditional Indigenous system of governance through our potlatch system and through our chief system. As Namox had mentioned about having wing chiefs, and he's the prime minister and there's premiers. It's just like your system of government, and it's just as powerful, if not more powerful. So through this movement, I've started to find my voice and to understand why and how important it is for us as grassroots people, as members of community, to stand up and to use our voices, to really have a democratic voice within our communities. That the people in leadership right now, in both the municipality and the First Nations communities, that they were elected by members of the community. And that's where the power stands, is with the people. It hasn't been an easy, it hasn't been easy at all. In my own position, in my own employment, it's been threatened because I wanted to speak out against, development within our communities. And it's not against people, it's against the threat to our environment. It's against the threat to our livelihood. As First Nations people, the land is our church. We go out there and we have that spiritual connection, just as many of you do. If you work all week, have a long week, and you want to go home to your families, you want to spend time with your families, what do? You take your family out onto the lake. You take your family out camping. That's what Burns Lake is about. We're 3,000 miles of fishing, and we're the Lakes District. That's our livelihood. That's what we are. Not only as just non-natives and First Nations, but all together, that's who we are. We're people of the land. We've all come from the land. And so that's where my fight is. And it's not against leaders or elected leaders or anything like that, because eventually they're going to come around and realize what they're doing, that the greed and profit should never be decided upon over people. That we are the people of this land, and that's why we need to stand up. As we have mentioned before, listening to the kids play over there, it's the generations that are to come that we want to be able to fight and to have the ability to be able to jump in that lake without the threat of oil, a sheen over it. The people of the Athabascan people of Fort Chipewyan, not even 2 months ago, had seen an oily sheen over their river. And obviously, it's coming from the tar sands. But everyone's saying, oh no, it's just natural. It's natural. It is natural. What's not natural is what's being put into it to extract it. And that's the threat to the communities. There's cancer down the river. It's coming down the river into these communities. And so when they talk about ethical oil, how can we ethically and morally sit here and benefit off the demise of other cultures and other communities? That's not fair, and that's not who we are. We're compassionate, loving people. So it's important that we stand up and we say and we find that solidarity and that unity within our community to be able to stand up and stand alongside one another with no quorums and no conflict, and to be able to say, you know what, we're people of Burns Lake, we're people of the traditional territories of the Wet'suwet'en and the Nettleton. I'm a descendant of both nations, and I'm proud of that. My ancestors come from not only Hagelget and Morristown and Telkwa and all those areas, but also from the people of Lake Babine and out in Tatchet and Topley, and I'm very proud of my lineage. And that's what's missing within our First Nations youth, is that they lack the identity of where we truly come from. And that's one of the biggest threats too to this, is that we would have way more people here if the kids knew what it was like to be out on the land. And a lot of our children don't know that. They're not in touch with their culture. And it's important for us, in any form of resistance, is to be able to connect our youth with the land and be able to let them know what it is we're fighting for. Because no matter what, this is not just, a passing phase. This is not just a passing movement. This is our duty as First Nations. This is our duty. It's not a job. It's our duty to be able to fight. We're born fighters. Our children are born fighters. Ron Charlie's child, his newest boy, Ryder, he was born protesting. And that boy is he's got an old soul. When he was born, when I first met him, I knew that he's going to be a fighter, and he's going to be standing alongside of us as soon as he can stand up and walk. That's important to us because our children are lacking that identity and that connection to our community and to the land and to the culture and to the language and the traditions. And so it's important for myself, for the generations to come, to be able to connect that so that they know exactly what we're standing up and saying no to and what we're fighting for. I'm very honored that through a program when I was in my early teens, the Rediscovery program, that I was connected to my own culture through non-natives. My first song and my first drum was handed to me by a Jewish man. And, we've got all this culture and this, these songs in our communities, but we weren't in touch with it. I grew up off reserve, which, can be a benefit, but is also, there's other things that you lose out on when you don't do that. And so through my life, I've been connecting myself to my culture and to my traditions and to my voice. And that's the most important thing, is to have a voice. Burns Lake needs a voice. We need to let the people know, let the municipality know, let the regional district know, let the First Nations leaders know that we say no. It's important for us as a community to stand side by side, to be able to say that and to be able to do that. Burns Lake has been all but quiet. That's why the organizers wanted to do this. They wanted to bring people together. They wanted to provide a place for all of us to use our voices to be able to say no. And that's it. Bottom line is that we say no to Enbridge. Thank you.